Okay, we're into the top 10 now. So my number 10 is a self-titled album from Justice. So Justice are basically a French electro-house band. If you were to think of Daft Punk, you wouldn't be too far off, but I would say Justice just hit that a little bit harder. The album is sometimes called Cross. Like I say, it's their self-titled album, but it's a black cover with a big gold cross on the front of it.
Like the XX album?
No, a cross as in like the
crucifix. Right.
So it's sometimes called Cross. It was released in 2007, and like I say, it does sound a little bit like Daft Punk, but quite a bit harder. If you've ever heard the song, I think it's called "We Are Your Friends," and it's by Justice versus Simeon. Simeon are another sort of electro dance band, but they're very different, and I could have checked them both these bands out on the basis of that song, and Simeon got binned and Justice were the ones that stuck. And I mean, I think most of that is down to the bass lines. That "We Are Your Friends" has got quite a sort of a very memorable bass line, and that's present in a lot of the songs on this album. There's also a little bit of a classical theme and biblical theme in terms of the album art and the some of the names of the songs. The opening track is Genesis. There's a song called Waters of Nazareth, so there's a sort of biblical theme, but they're just sort of, for the most part, sort of really heavy sort of EDM music with some classical influences and but sort of really cool bass lines. I've kind of written here that imagine if Mozart or Beethoven did EDM. I don't know how accurate that is, but certainly on the opening track Genesis, which has got a really sort of there's a big string section on it and stuff. That is quite an appropriate description. But songs like Let There Be Light it's got really heavy bass grooves and sort of chirping electronic noises. And even when it's kind of at its heaviest and noisiest, it's still got that really sort of danceable groove to it. And it's just the bass and the drums just really hit very hard. It's like I saw Justice at Mad Cool Festival in Madrid in 2018, I think it was.
Right, okay.
And they when I saw them, you could feel the bass vibrating through the ground and up through your feet. It's a huge sound. So it's not all just kind of big heavy bass. There's a song called Dance or Dance, which is it's almost it sounds like it's almost something the Jackson 5 would have written. It's got these sort of juvenile kind of vocals like a young Michael Jackson or whatever, but it's delivered over like a funk bass, and there's sort of Daft Punk-esque kind of synths. There's The Party, which sounds a bit like the song Fuck the Pain Away by Peaches, if in terms of its sort of vocal delivery. And there's a song called DVNO, which has got more vocals on it. For the most part it's an instrumental album, but these are some of the vocal moments that stick out. DVNO, the vocals are slightly strained and take a little bit of getting used to, but it's a very cool song. There's lots of kind of crackling electronics and sort of decaying electronic sounds all over the place on this album. Songs like Valentine is quite a sort of delirious, happy sort of track, but there's just like that subtle tinge of melancholy in the delivery. And some of the heaviest tracks are Waters of Nazareth that I mentioned before, and a song called Stress. And Stress is very aptly named because it is just a series of very stressful noises, but it's just got this insane bass line that once it kicks in, it's just impossible not to move to, despite how abrasive the sounds you're hearing are. That bass groove, you just can't not move to it. It's a very cool album, really cool, really hard hitting. If you like bass, it's going to be for you. And it's just a really good example of heavy electronic music that's catchy enough for people that aren't necessarily fans of EDM to get into, because I'm not a hard electro or electronic dance music kind of guy. I think there are albums I've talked about that have got hints of that on them, so I'm a fairly casual kind of listener. This is the most sort of dedicated EDM sort of album that I listen to, and it's absolutely fantastic. And I think Justice should be I think they're a pretty huge band, but I think they should have, when you talk about the likes of Daft Punk, I think Justice should be right up there next to them.
Yeah. Did you say that there's a song in there called Dance?
Yeah, it's called Dance, but it's like Dance, and it's like the lyrics are like, do the Dance 1 2 3 4 5.
Yeah, I know that song, and I would have thought that it just shows
it sounds like Daft Punk.
It sounds like Daft Punk. I mean, I'm not familiar with kind of Justice's material, but if somebody was to ask me who wrote Dance or who released Dance, I would have absolutely said Daft Punk.
Yeah, I think most people probably would, and there's a lot of similarities there, but Dance is probably their most famous song. It's just a fantastic album. So that was the self-titled album by Justice.